I just received my first package ever from Geek Chic. This is for a cut and sew for an exclusive Geek Chic pattern. So I'm very excited to try out, to see what their materials feel like, to see what the print looks like, and to try out this new pattern. Okay, so right off the bat, feeling it, it feels great. I see everything's clearly labeled. That's going to be very easy to kind of know what pieces you're doing what with. So you can see here is their website if you want to order this. Of course, we'll put this in my description as well. So cute. I love this. This is the cut and sew. This is how you will get yours if you order it. I am going to go and grab the pattern. I have it emailed to me and I'm going to read over that, cut everything out, and then we'll come back and go over the pieces. I have cut out all the pieces and I have looked over the pattern. The name of this is actually the Maria Cellphone Crossbody bag. Let's go over our pieces. So we have names for the pieces, but we also have letters. Throughout the pattern, you'll see these letters being referenced, and once you start putting certain pieces together, they'll be renamed. So say once you put a pocket, lining, and exterior together, it's going to be defined like, hey, we're going to call this X now. And so that way you can reference that easily and not get confused. We have our pocket exteriors. That's going to be our A. We have our back pocket top B, back pocket bottom C, back pocket lining D, and that's a longer piece. We have our flap exterior E, our flap lining F. We have our D-rings. We have our pocket linings H, several of these, and then we have our crossbody straps. Now I will need to add a little bit of hardware. I will need to add a zipper tape and some D-rings. I'm going to use some swivel hooks and an adjustable bar for my crossbody strap, and I think I'm going to add some cam snaps, the little plastic ones. Couple things I want to point out. I am following the pattern instructions almost exactly. So for the pattern, it does not call for interfacing. I'm leaving it that way. Now that's a little unique to me. I usually like to do some kind of interfacing, so I may at the end suggest like, hey, I would like, if I do this again, I would add a little more interfacing, but I don't know. So I'm going to trust the designer and go the way they have it written and follow those instructions exactly. So no interfacing on anything. I just cut it out exactly as it came to me. But it's calling for a number 3 zipper. I don't think I have a number 3 zipper in my house. I'm going to look and make for sure, but I think I'm going to substitute that for a number 5. That might mean that I might have to do a little bit of trimming. Now that we've talked about the pieces and we kind of went over a little bit of the prep, let's go ahead and get started making this pattern. To get started, we're going to pull out our back pocket top B, our back pocket bottom C, and then the back pocket lining D. What we're going to be making is a basic zipper pocket. Our zipper is going to go in between. I did end up using a number 5 zipper, not a number 3. It'll go in between, and this longer piece is going to be the lining. What I like to do is I like to put my lining piece right sides up. I take the zipper and I place it on the top. So I'm lining up those 2 long edges. So I want to take this exterior bottom piece and place it right sides together. Everything's matching along this top edge, and we'll make sure that the sides are matched too. I'm going to clip these 3 pieces in place, and then I will sew it with the seam allowance given in the pattern. Now that we have these pieces sewn together, we are going to put them wrong sides together. So flip, pull down that lining, pull down that exterior to make sure everything is laying flat and flush. And now we're just going to top stitch. So across that edge that we just sewed, we're going to top stitch. This is what we have. We can see this from the front. Let's pull it over to the back. Here is my lining piece, that very long piece. What we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom of that piece and take it all the way to the top, the unsewn edge of the zipper tape. So it just flips up, clip it in place. This is what we have from the right side, the exterior. This is what we have from the lining side. Take this piece, this is that top piece, and putting this right sides together and sewing all three of these in place as well. Now that we have this top and the lining sewn, I'm going to flip up just the top piece. That lining is staying down now. I will sew along that edge that we just sewed, and that's going to tack this top piece to this seam allowance. Your seam allowance will be staying up, but your lining will be staying down. Off camera, I'm going to take this piece now. I'm going to add my zipper pull, and I'm also going to iron this flat just where this pocket needs to be pressed to have a really nice crease in it. So I'll do those steps off camera. Next, I'll grab out my two flap pieces. We have a flap exterior and a flap lining. Place the two flaps right sides together. I'm going to leave my opening here at the top, but I'm going to sew all around the rest of it. So the angles on each side and this bottom curve I'll sew, but I'll leave this opening unsewn, and that is how I will turn it out, and then I'll top stitch all around. I have the flap sewn right sides together. I turn it so now it's wrong sides together, and what I want to do is I want to take this over to the iron just to press it flat before I top stitch it. So we have this piece done. Let's go ahead and pull out those D-rings, and the way we're going to do these is the same way we're going to do the folding of the crossbody strap. So for the D-rings, what we do is we fold this in half, and we do a finger press here. You can take it over the iron. And now the pattern has the coolest name for this. I really love it. I'm gonna start using it. They call it a memory crease. That's so cute. I love it. I've never heard it called that way. So you make that memory crease, and then you just fold the raw edges to the middle, and you do it on both sides. And then you fold it again, just creating that typical four-way fold. Now you can see this is small, so we are using 1/2 inch hardware. I have 1/2 inch D-rings, 1/2 inch swivel hooks, but I was unable to find an adjustable bar in my sewing room for smaller than 3/4 of an inch. So I probably won't be able to use an adjustable bar. So this is how the D-ring looks. I'm going to top stitch down both of the long edges, and then I will slip my D-ring on and just baste the bottom edge of it. So let's go ahead and do that now. Here's how my D-ring looks. I will do those same steps for this other one, so I'll have both of these completed. Now we are going to do that same folding technique on the crossbody strap, but we have just a few steps that we have to do before that. First thing we'll do is we're going to separate this. This is two separate pieces. Place one of your pieces right sides up, and then take your other piece and place it right sides down. You're going to have these perpendicular, and we're just going to sew a diagonal line across here. After we have that seam sewn, we want to trim it. We want to leave at least 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. We're just going to then open it up. You will press that seam open. I will take this over to the iron and press it, because I'm already going to be taking it over there to do the 4-way fold on this. The designer also tells us when we are at the end, on both the ends, so we'll have two short ends, we will just fold that under and put a crease there as well, just so our edge is finished whenever we add our swivel hooks and the adjustable bar if you're using one. I'm going to go off camera and do the ironing of all the different pieces I have, folding this in that 4-way fold, and then I will top stitch down both of the strap's long edges just like I did for the D-ring connector. I have my strap completed, so it's a 4-way fold, top stitched down both long edges and the raw ends on the short side folded under. I have my 2 D-rings completed. Those were folded a 4-way fold, top stitched down the long edges, and a 1/2 inch D-ring slipped on. The flap, it was sewn right sides together, turned, and put wrong sides together, and then pressed flat and top stitched. I didn't top stitch that top just because I didn't feel I needed to, but I did top stitch around the other edges. And then I pressed out this pocket piece just to make it sure everything laid flat there. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this pocket piece and have it right sides up. Let's take our flat piece, and this is the exterior. Let's place them right sides together. So the right side will be down. You'll be looking at your lining on your flap. You're going to center that in place, and then you're just going to base along this top edge. Let's set this aside and let's pull out one of our A pieces, and we're going to have it orientated so it's going the long way down. Pull out your 2 D-rings, and the pattern tells us how far down to place these D-rings, but you'll make sure your D-rings pointing to the interior, and you'll place one on each side according to the pattern measurements, and then you're just going to base these 2 in place. I'm going to leave just a little bit of overhang so that these 2 pieces will be secure. When you leave overhang, you just give a little bit of extra security to a D-ring or connector strap. Now the pattern tells us that this piece will now be known as Y, and then this piece with the flap will now be known as Z. So we have these 2 pieces completed. Let's go ahead and pull out our 2 A pieces. Take out your 4 H pieces. Place each one of these right sides together, making sure they line up at the top because we will be sewing them across the top with the seam allowance given in the pattern. Now that we have all these sewn together, what we're going to do is we're going to take them and just flip them so that they're wrong sides together. I'm going to kind of press this seam flat. Then we will place these wrong sides together. Each one we're going to do like this, rolling that seam if we need to so it's nice and smooth at top. And then we're just going to top stitch across the top here with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now let's look at this flap piece. Whenever you do that, grab it by the flap to kind of understand the way you're going to do it. You're going to top stitch it around here. We're leaving that flat piece up. I'm going to press this open, of course, just like I did with the other one, but I do want to make sure that I don't stitch that flap down. This is what we have at this point. We have all of our pieces combined and connected, and we are down to these 4 sets. Before we go any further, let's remind ourselves of the names so that we can go through the steps with clarity, and it just makes it a lot easier the way they have it set up. So this is our Z piece. The D-rings, that is going to be our Y piece, and then we have the 2 A pieces. Each of these pieces has an exterior and a lining. The next step to do is to separate the 2. So we're going to pull them apart so that we have an exterior and a lining. Now what I want to do is I want to move this set aside, and we are going to work with the Y with the D-rings and 1 A piece. We are going to take this Y piece and this A piece, and we're going to put them right sides together. We are going to be sewing on the exterior pieces, so you can clip these together, and what we're going to do is we're going to sew, and we're going to get, the pattern says, you know, right up against that top stitching. That's going to be that seam there. You are going to start sewing here, back stitch, go down, across, and back up, back stitching again. This is going to be at a larger seam allowance, so look at the pattern, make sure you have the correct seam allowance for that step. Let's go ahead and sew those 3 sides together. I added a few clips where at the seams at the bottom just to kind of hold these pieces together. I'm going to make for sure that I don't hit my D-ring. You shouldn't be hitting it with the seam allowance given if you follow the pattern directions for attaching the D-rings and for the sewing now. But just make for sure you can feel and that you won't be hitting that hardware. You may need to flip your hardware back inside, or you could, even if you wanted, go ahead and pull the whole D-ring out to the side just so you can make for sure you don't hit it. After we sew those pieces together, your Y and your A, we rename that X just for clarity. But what we have to do now is we need to sew that last remaining A piece onto this. But we only want to attach it to the A. So this is your A and this is your Y here. Remember, our Y has those D-rings attached. So what we want to do is we kind of want to separate these two pieces. This Y is going to stay inside. So it's going to not be caught in this next few steps of sewing. It's going to be a little tricky because we don't have like a lot of room, and so it's going to want to kind of creep back in. So I'm going to add some clips. Definitely you could do pins. So I have the Y lining exterior kind of clipped out of the way. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out that A piece. This is the last A piece you have. What you're going to do is you're going to put it exterior to exterior and lining to lining. We're going to match up those center seams first just to kind of keep them like together. After I have those seams matched up, you can go ahead and clip the rest of the way around. This is my lining, this is the exterior. What we want to do is we want to attach these pieces, and we start here at the lining part and we go ahead and back stitch here, go all the way down, then go over, sew all the way back up, back stitch here. We leave this opening in the lining for us to turn through. So we're going to use the seam allowance in the pattern. We're going to go slow. What I'm doing is I'm making sure that while I'm sewing, I'm going to sew very slow to make sure all my edges are matching up and that I don't have any shifting. So I have everything sewed together, and the clips worked fine. Honestly, what would have worked even better is if you use nothing and then just as you sewed, you use your fingers, because you're going to be able to peek in the whole time and just push it back with your hand and hold it back. Honestly, that's what I would do next time. Save myself the hassle of clipping and now having to turn this with all those clips attached. I would just do it that way. What I'm doing is I'm just clipping a few of those little corners there. So you have 2 corners to clip. I just clipped those, and I'm going to use this opening we left in the lining and just to pull this through. So here's what we have at this point. We have this little pocket sewn together. These 2 pieces are separate. You have your 2 linings here. We have 2 pieces left, and we're basically going to kind of do the same thing that we just did. Before we do that, make sure you take the time to poke out those bottom corners, and if you want, you can give everything a good press. So we're going to take this last piece with our zipper on it, and we're going to place it exterior to exterior, lining to lining, and again, we're just going to attach it to this raw edge here. So this edge will be attached to this raw edge, not to this pocket. It'll be kept out of the way. If you need to, you could pin or clip. I feel like it's going to be easier for me to just kind of go organically and use my finger, go a stitch at a time, and just push this out of the way. I'm going to do the same thing with the lining, but the lining, I can flip it down. So I only have one section that I need to be really careful on. This part can be sewn easily together. We also want to make for sure that we do not sew the flap into the seam allowance also. Shouldn't be hard. Everything should be completely missed, but we're just going to be careful while we're sewing. So we put these right sides together, lining to lining, exterior to exterior. Let's match up those seams first. We're going to sew this exact same way we just did. Start here at the lining side, have these pieces matching up, start sewing here, back stitch, go all the way down, across, back up, leaving the opening here. I just sewed through the lining and now I'm coming down to the exterior. I'm catching this pocket into the seam allowance because it needs to be shut and closed anyway. So you can go ahead and sew through that. And so we will have that part caught in the seam allowance. As I'm going over my hardware, I'm going to be careful to not let my needle hit my hardware. Again, you can trim your corners and then you're going to open everything and pull it all out through that opening you left in the lining. This is what we have at this point. Here's that pocket, here's our flap. We have the two unsewn bottom edges of the lining pockets. So what we need to do now is we need to sew these pockets. What you're going to do is you are just going to start here at the corner, or that's what I do at least. I open up that seam and then I just press it in, usually about a quarter to a half of an inch. I'll press it in and I'll put a clip there to kind of hold that in place, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then after I have those two spots folded in, if I just push my fingers in and kind of pull tight, the rest of it will go in just evenly there, and it's a really easy way to get those raw edges to fold inward. I'm going to put a few clips there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sew across the bottom of each of these. That will finish those pocket edges so that they can be pushed in. So we're just going to sew across the seam allowance, usually just about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, no big deal. Close up the pockets on both of these. So let's do that for this first one now. Once you have that closed, go ahead and trim up your threads, and then you will just push it inside. So there's the first one. I'm going to repeat those same steps with this other side. I'm also going to go ahead and attach 2 cam snaps and then use that placement to figure out where to place it on the other side of the exterior. So that'll be that part finished. Pulling out my strap, I'm going to show you how to add the adjustable bar and the swivel hooks. Now, like I said, I did not have a 1/2 of an inch adjustable bar, so mine is too big, so I'm not going to use mine. It's not going to look good. So I'm just going to show you how to do it. So what you do is you go up and over that bar. This is what it'll look like. I just fold the raw edge or the folded edge under, put a clip there. That is the first side completed. You will sew either 1 or 2 lines of stitching across this to secure that. Go ahead and make sure you don't get it twisted and get to the bottom and the other free edge of this crossbody strap. Once you get to the bottom, grab out a swivel hook, slide it on. It's just going to be free hanging on there. Go back to that adjustable bar and go up and over again to get that free. Then take that last swivel hook and slide it on. Fold over your edge, fold it over one more time. Put a clip there, and then you're just going to sew across with this edge. That is how you'll do it with an adjustable bar. Since my adjustable bar is too big, I'm just going to cut mine down to the right size and have a swivel hook on each end. Mine will be a little bit simpler, but I did want to show you how to add the adjustable bar if you have one to use. My Maria cell phone crossbody is officially done. Everything is adorable on it. This is from Geek, Chic Fabrics and More. I'm going to have the link to their information in my description, but let's talk about the pattern first. So I love the fact that this comes together really quick and easy, and it's really unique. Like, even though it's a simple design, I don't know if I have any patterns or have so many patterns similar to this. Very cute. It is good for being organized and convenient. So we have several options to put a cell phone. Cell phones are going to fit easily in here. Place to put money, a small wallet, your car keys, lip balm, lotion, snacks, whatever you need. I think it's a great design. I hope they decide to come out with this pattern as an actual pattern, not just as a cut and sew, because I'd like to try it with other materials and other options and everything. So this pattern has been so much fun to make. I actually would like to make more of these. I think these would be great sellers at craft shows. Also like to see this as a hip bag. I think it would be a super cute hip bag. Anyway, thank you so much for watching another tutorial of mine. I had a great time sewing this. Really love it. And I hope today in your sewing room that you're able to just try a new pattern, a new technique, and something fun. Thank you so much and have a great day.